My name is Antoine Wright, and I'll be talking to you today about making your ministry website mobile. And as I said earlier today, this is not necessarily a developer-centric talk. I can go as techie as you would like me to go, but we're going to actually talk from the very beginning of your ministry website project all the way to the end of that project. So this is pretty much our outline of what we'll talk about today. We'll talk about what the web looks like in terms of your mobile strategy. I'll give you kind of an example to think about, a large industry, large brand example. And then the actual process of going into making your ministry website mobile. First, analyzing your current content. That is actually the biggest mistake that most ministries make when in terms of going mobile. They want to take everything that they have ever done since Jesus came back, and they dump it online, or they dump it mobile, or they do all of the above. And then they go, why no one's listening? And there are reasons for that. People have a finite attention span. And even if you're marketing your mobile app or mobile website to an existing audience, there's only so many things that they're going to listen to multiple times. Next, we're going to talk about building and configuring the dev space, development space, and I'm going to talk about it in two methods. We're going to talk about two software services that give you a means of being able to take your website and make it mobile. One that turns it into a mobile website, the other one that actually turns it into a mobile app specifically for Java-enabled featured phones. And why Java-enabled featured phones? Because of the 4.2 billion mobile subscriptions and 3.6 billion mobile users. Over 75% of those folks do not have a smartphone. So, what's the gospel that doesn't reach everybody? So we'll be talking about reaching everybody with those two solutions. Lastly, some points about deploying and promoting, and I'll give you some examples, things that I get my aha moments. I've been doing mobile ministry magazine and mobile anything since 99, 2000, and everything that I think about, according to my family and friends, is way too out there. But when they catch on to it, it's an aha moment. And so when I asked them the question, I said, hey, listen, I'm going to go talk about mobile. Give me some examples of things you wish your church did on their mobile website. One specific example came up, and we'll talk about what that looks like a little later on. And then lastly, some do's and don'ts. Because really doing your mobile website can be an exercise in frustration, or it can be an exercise in doing what you already do that's profitable with your website strategy, your social media strategy, your app strategy, your marketing strategy, or your evangelism strategy. So there are some do's and don'ts that I offer to you in the midst of that. Just a few other heads up. On some of the slides, as you see, there's a QR code. I am not opposed to people picking up their phone and taking pictures of QR codes while I talk. I enjoy it. I did it before there were QR codes, and my professors didn't like it, but I personally like it. This QR code actually points to this presentation. And so if you scan it, you'll have this presentation show up on your computing device. This presentation is actually made with a technology endeavor or an experiment called S5 that was invented by Eric Meyer in roughly 2006. It is using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to make a slideshow. Because as we know with mobile websites, it doesn't matter how beautiful it is if only people that have a plugin or a specialized application can view it. Everybody can view HTML. Almost everybody can view CSS and JavaScript. And that's what I usually tend to prefer to do presentations and content therefore from. So there will be some QR codes pointing to content that goes along with the slide deck. And also you'll notice at the bottom right corner, if you pull this up on your laptop or PC, there's actually a control panel that you can mouse over on this side here that allow you to go through the presentation. There's actually a way to turn the presentation off, a little toggle that turns it off so you can see some of the speaker notes, and inside of those speaker notes are additional resources, links, content that's kind of valuable, as well as some of the steps that we'll talk about when we talk about the development sites. So it's a whole lot packed into one little website, and I'm running all of this off my Nokia N8 phone. So that's kind of the beginning of our talk today. what's a mobile website talk without running it from your mobile phone, all right? All right, so let's go ahead and get in. Web's place and mobile strategy. That's kind of the number one thing. Your mobile strategy, you know, you may have heard it oftentimes when you said an app is not a strategy. Well, a website is not a strategy either. It's part of a strategy. And for many groups, they say, you know, well, my group is mobile, my organization mobile, our audience is mobile. Well, we need to be mobile. And well, that's an okay assumption to have, but what exactly does it mean for you to go mobile? Coca-Cola was really neat. They world's largest brand by far. They spend, you know, $100 million a year on mobile, $200 million or so on mobile, and then they split this money up in this specific way, 70, 20, 10. 70% of what they spend towards their mobile strategy goes towards SMS and multimedia messaging or picture messaging. Why? Because they are the world's largest brand, and they have to reach everybody. And of the, again, 3.5-ish billion phones that are out there, over 95% of those persons that have the phones are using text messaging. And over 85% of those persons are using picture messaging. So why not, as a Coca-Cola strategy, I want to reach the most people with my marketing efforts on mobile. Well, I'm going to spend the most of my energy, 70% of their finances actually is pushed towards using this channel. 20% of what's left, of that 30% that's left, is pushed towards mobile web. So they build mobile websites, QR code strategies, QR codes, bump, things of that sort. That's the other kind of 20% of what Coca-Cola looks at. And then the last 10% has to do with mobile apps. Because when you get down, you know, to it, mobile apps is actually this big of the very large mobile pie, and it's very expensive to build and maintain a mobile app, but it's not the return on investment, at least for a Coca-Cola, doesn't equate. Kraft Foods actually has a very similar methodology. Theirs is actually 80-10-10. 80% of their endeavors go towards SMS and multimedia messaging. Other large brands, if you will, who have global touch. They all tend to have this same idea of strategy. We want to reach the most people as possible with what we can have, and then the real fun stuff, while it's really cool and really decent, it really can't be the big part of our push. The good part is that, you know, there's room for web inside of this strategy. It's not non-existent. You know, it may not be the biggest thing that a church or an organization does, but it needs to be there. For Coca-Cola, their mobile web strategy includes really simple stuff, making sure that every marketing project they do has a mobile entry point and a mobile feedback loop. It's, you know, and it's kind of a duh when you think about it, but if you go, next time you go to the store, look at a can of soda, a can of Coca-Cola soda, you'll see a smart code. Sometimes you'll see a barcode, QR code, barcode as well. If you have issues or feedback, that's your fastest way there. Okay, and so in terms of the church, globally speaking, what is our mobile strategy? You know, we can have this kind of methodology as 70-20-10, but depending on your local church or your organization's reach, these percentages might look a little bit different. What's not going to be different is the fact that you do need to be present on the web. People will use it. In the United States alone, 52% of new phone purchases are smartphones. Yeah. And which means that I'm buying an unlimited data plan, which means yes, I am going online. You know, and it means eventually I'm downloading an app, but that's eventually. But I'm definitely going to be going online. There was one group, I think it was Strategy Analytics, that said that it was about 70% of mobile web use only had to do with searches. Just searching stuff. Okay? But for you, what is your place in web's place in your mobile strategy? Once you figure that out, really the next thing is for you to analyze what your content looks like. You know, every church or organization has, you know, we have the basics, an about page, who we are, what do we believe. Most of us know, we have our certain niche, our unique piece of content, something that makes us go, and then we have a means of being contacted back. Those are kind of the three prongs of just about every website, and that's the basics, in a sense of what you want to have on a mobile site. But then there's also that extra of, okay, what exactly is my audience expecting from me if they come from a mobile device? There was one church in the Charlotte area, Elevation Church. Many of you may have heard of that church. Elevation grew like a bomb, really. They kind of exploded. They went from 3,000 to over 12,000 persons in the course of 3.5 years. They needed a mobile presence. But the first thing that people were looking for when they went to their website on a mobile, where's the service? What time is the service? That's all the audiences, that's all people cared about knowing. They didn't, and Elevation and understanding their audience, they didn't build out a mobile web presence that had every sermon that Stephen Furtick preached for the last 7 years on that mobile website. Could they? Yes, and eventually they did roll that out, but that wasn't the first part of their strategy. The next item is what content is most important. So there's the content that needs to be there, but what is most important? Whatever it is that makes you unique, your organization, your adventure, your content, or you, if you're an individual or an organization, whatever makes you unique, that is the most important thing to have on a mobile device. Otherwise, you really do look like everybody else. People don't browse on their mobile the way they browse on the PC. The incentive for going to a mobile site is that there is something here that I can only get here, or I can best get here, that I can't get from either a larger experience, a larger screen, or I just can't get anywhere else. One really cool story here, Fandango, many of you may use that movie service. Their movie website used to only list the city. When it was back when it was a website, it only listed the city and had a search for the movie. It was really, really simple. That is all people wanted to know. Their mobile site does not look like that anymore, But that was the most important thing. Now, if you go to the full, whiz-bang Fandango site, you get to watch trailers, you get to download, author biographies and things of that sort, and that's all well and good. You're sitting at a PC. On a mobile, there's an instance or a context of there's a certain type of information that I need or want right now. That usually works. That right now usually works with most content forms. I can actually tell you that Mobile Ministry Magazine breaks that all apart. A magazine, we don't want you to be there right now. We kind of actually want you to sit for a while, read for a little bit. So we build it a little bit differently. In terms of recommended content or recommended navigation or content for your mobile websites, very simple. Who you are, what's available, what can somebody do right now, actionable information. And then lastly, how do I get back in contact? How do I give you feedback? Those are the three most important things. So about me, what makes me, and connect with me or contact me. Anything else beyond that, you're driving into something that's a little more browsable, which may be a good idea. May not be a good idea, but again, you have to look at your content. What does your content look like? What does your audience look like? What are they expecting when they come to you from a mobile device? Wow, that is really white. I was really hoping that I can fix the white balance. On this slide as well, there's a guide to what I call the mobile ministry methodology. As I mentioned earlier, I've been doing Mobile Ministry Magazine since October 2004. I've been asking that question a whole lot, and in connecting with about 15 other organizations a few years ago, what we call the Mobile Ministry Forum, we developed this definition of what mobile ministry looks like. Because one of the first and the most important questions we had is that, well, I want to go mobile, and whether that's app or service or website, but a lot of people did not have a course to follow for this. And actually this year, April of this year, over at the magazine, I unveiled what I call a mobile ministry methodology, a means of iterating yourself through a project Think like the software development lifecycle or an agile methodology, very similar. That equates to a ministry objective being done using mobile technology. And this is very specific towards mobile. I think version 2 allows us to go to the internet with it as well. But in asking yourself this question, what are my goals? What is it that I want to have? What are my issues? What is preventing me from getting here? And these are the resources that I have to kind of get to this end of this project. This methodology actually takes you through those steps and has some recommended sub-steps in there so that you can actually start building out your mobile app or website in a traceable, repeatable, scalable, and the also nice ROI-friendlyable manner. That's going to come back up actually in a second. All right. Our next item, there we go. That is really white. That is really, really white. Building and configuring the dev space. There are two web services that I wanted to demonstrate today, and I'm actually going to just use screenshots to demonstrate this. I did think about this beforehand, and I talked with Dave whether we wanted to do this in the lab and actually help you iterate and build your own mobile website. And I teach virtual classes as well as in-person classes, and these never go according to time. When you start taking people down steps of doing items, no matter how few slides that you use. And so I wanted to just show you the pictures of two services and the pictures as I iterate through the, through the various screens of these two services. The first one is Mobify. It's not the first of its kind. It's probably the best. It might not be the best. It really depends on your opinion about it. But Mobify, MOBIFY.me, is a web service that is able to take your website, your existing desktop website, and if you're really good, you can do it in 15 minutes. And I mean from sign up all the way down to having a new site. You can turn your website mobile. And yes, I'm using Dropbox for the picture gallery. I thought that'd be kind of neat as well. There's a lot you can do for your mobile. It's really, really kind of fun. Dropbox did a pretty decent mobile website as well. On their page, there is a small sign up for it. They're actually in beta right now. I built this, I think I did my slide deck all of 2.5 weeks ago, and they turned off new signups for their service. They're actually releasing a brand new version of their service, which will enable you to take your website and make it not just mobile friendly, smartphone and feature phone, but also tablet friendly. So you'll be able to do some of the touch gestures and things of that source through that. But you'll see a page like this once you log in and log into your site. There is a dashboard. On this dashboard for this item, you have any number of websites. You can do free websites, your own websites ideally. There are some paid subscriptions to do a little bit more. If you would like to use jQuery to change the look and feel, things of that sort, you'd have to use some of the paid services. But once you've put your site in, you actually start iterating your site through. It goes through, it spiders your site. It pulls down all of the differentiated pages of your website. So if you're already using an existing CMS, Expression Engine, WordPress, Blogger, any of those items, if you choose not to use their mobile sites or a mobile plugin and you want to use Mobify's, it'll actually go through and tell you, oh, this page is actually pretty cool from mobile, and this is what you can build. This is how you build out the blocks for this. This page isn't, kind of back and forth, which is pretty cool. It took me the first time 15 minutes just to take the first page from MMM and create a mobile site about that, but it gave me 13 other pages that didn't look like everything else and that I had to go into and do some CSS level tweaks to. There is an editor page, and it's a shame that I can't make this bigger, but on this side of the window here, you actually get 4 different resolutions to choose from with which to look at your mobile site. The first one is the 480 by 320 viewport of iPhone, used to be high-end Android device, and then a few on down, all the way down to 120 by 170 or 120 by 160 resolution for feature phones. So you can see what your mobile website will look like in that smallest resolution if Opera or Nokia browser transcoded that for the smaller screens. The pages are very, very light, very, very light. I'm speaking of tens of K and not over 50K. Really easy, really easy. There's an editing window up top and up bottom. The top editor window is for CSS, so any kind of CSS changes that you'd like to make to your content. Those CSS changes are only saved on the mobile site. They're not saved onto your desktop site, so there's no chance of mixing the two. And then if you want to write in any codes, maybe you have a specific mobile banner, you want to change your navigation to be a little more mobileable, you can go through and do that in that window. Once you've done that, you'll be presented again with your screen of template pages with which to edit. You can choose to edit or not edit, delete, not delete. Once you finish editing your template pages, you're taken to a management page. And it's really a shame I can't make that too much bigger. Inside of this management screen, you can do your m.dot or your subdomain or your URL.mobile URL. You can make your assignment there. They do give you the CNAME record with which you can go into your DNS and change that. It is free to do an m.dot. It is free to do a /mobile. It is not free to do a subdomain, or another type of subdomain, if you will. If you have Google Analytics to your site or Google or AdMob that you're using to track visitors or any type of monetization, you can add those codes into here. And so Mobilify will track it there. Mobilify will track it on their end with the dashboard, but it'll also show up in your Google Analytics dashboard. And it's actually pretty neat the way it shows up in your Google Analytics dashboard. It's just a second line that goes alongside. You also have API codes for Google Maps. So if you're integrating Maps or Foursquare into your mobile site, because one of the most important things that many sites need, location, 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 you can integrate those in here using the API keys from those respective services. I'm trying to remember what else did I not forget. There are some advanced settings in here that I almost never remember unless I am looking directly at them. But the screenshots are bigger on a PC. I can tell you that for sure. Once you've finished, you can pretty much deploy your site as is. It takes anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours once you finish your first template for it to show up on the interwebs. It's actually pretty fast. Mobilify does have some different pricing options. If you go over a traffic limit, you do get bumped up. You kind of have no choice in that matter there. But as you can see, $245 a year and $1,000 a year is not that bad at all for what amounts to basically a CMS mobile transcoder for your website. And what you're not doing is you're not touching the CMS that you were using for your traditional, if you will, conventional website. If you make changes on your conventional website, it's automatically propagated to your mobile website. Very quick, very easy-ish. Easy-ish, I would say, from there. If you do want to do something more advanced, then if you will, just pretty much just displaying your page and having a generic UI, you do have to go up to the next pay grades for those items. That's one way of making your website mobile. All right. The second way of making your website mobile, and this kind of actually gets back into analyzing the audience that you have, analyzing your content on your website. So the first one is Mobilify, but the second one, the second service, this is a service I tried out a few weeks ago called Binu. They're fairly new. As a matter of fact, I actually did a review of their developer portal a few weeks ago and found some bugs that they didn't know that they had. So they stayed in beta a little bit longer to fix the bugs. But what's really neat about Binu, Binu doesn't just so much build you a mobile website, but it takes the RSS feeds off of your existing websites and creates a Java-based application that uses data. And I say no data. I'm talking about 4K, 5K for an appropriated type feed inside of the application. So you can take your mobile website, and if you're dealing with persons or an audience that's very constrained by data usage, they're not going to be streaming too much information. The Benu developer portal and app service is a very good option. It is its own app store, so you can think of it in the same light that you would think about GetJar or the Apple App Store. It's its own kind of app window, if you will. But what's again neat about this service, this took me 10 minutes. And I lie not when I say it took 10 minutes. I've tried several services, and my first evaluation for every mobile service is actually how long does it take, if you're a content management service, how long does it take for me to take something that I already have existing and get up and running? And my barometer is 20 minutes. If it takes more than 20 minutes for me, then that means for somebody who's really not techie, who really doesn't have time to deal with this, it's going to take them at least an hour, maybe two. Okay. With Benu, I could throw my mom at this and she'd be done in less than 30 minutes, easy. The hardest thing for her would actually be finding the graphic on her computer. And she's like, where did you save the graphic for me? Benu is actually pretty, I'd argue too efficient in that respect. You don't even have to resize the graphics to use it. It'll do it for you. When you go into the content management system, it'll show you a list of applications. You can choose to make a brand new app. There are two, if you will, types of apps that they make. The first one, they're going to actually be changing that language. The first one, the new basic app, is actually an app wizard. So it just takes you through a small little step. It shows you the emulator, again, on the right side of your page. And you basically fill out the blanks. Once you finish filling out the blanks, you hit save and you have an app. It's really that simple. I really wish this was not so whited out. You can choose from the any RSS feed that you have on your web page. So for some churches that may have sermons that you're posting to your site, you have an XML data feed of those sermons. Well, it might make sense to make an accessible, sermon download app. That might be something your audience appreciates. If your pastor or your leadership team has a blog that they're constantly updating, this would be another thing that has a data feed that's attached to it. That would be something that would iterate constant enough for an app like this. And I mentioned the graphics. I used two graphics. I needed a logo graphic with my regular logo, and I needed a banner graphic. This is why it only took me 10 minutes, because I already had these existing. Most of the time, our marketing folks already have these already ready to go. And I think the size of the graphics were something like 300 pixels max by 300, or 150 max by 150, and 170 by 30 for the banner. Which are all small sizes. Those are small sizes for either ad banners. If you've been doing a Twitter graphic, very quick, very easy. You probably have those sitting in the computer somewhere. Once you fill out that information, again though, you hit save and you're just about done. There is an option, and actually the option actually hits on this page here. You have an option of publishing your application either as a Java-based Android app or as a regular Java application. And I say this is a making your ministry website, making your mobile ministry website. But you do have to understand that in many spaces, a website is probably too big for your audience to look at. You need to make something smaller, a little bit more accessible, that has at least a better brand attachment to it. Java apps are notoriously good for this. The option here with Benu to be able to make a .apk, if you're familiar with that Android terminology, basically a downloadable Java app that you can upload to GetJar, or you can stick on your own website. Somebody can download it. You can share it to them by Bluetoothing it to them, one person to the other. That makes it really simple And then, of course, because you have the APK, it uses VeriSign and the other 2 licensing agencies for your certificate. You could actually upload it to your Android market on your own account. It's really quite simple, but really you'd be done in 10 minutes. Which is why the developer part is really never that big, because this is the easy side. This part is the easy side. Actually building the application is easy. It's actually figuring out what it is that you want your ministry website to look like that actually takes the bulk of your time. And if some organizations are any indication, there's usually a lot of stuff being thrown between people. Phone throwing championships kind of stuff. All right. So those 2 services, those are 2 of the services on this slide. Actually, this QR code points to a listing of mobile web and app services. Pretty large one. I'm begged to keep it updated at Mobile Ministry Magazine pretty often. So if you're doing web, looking for a web CMS, if you want to build your own, the links to all of the above are there. You have some like Sencha Touch and PhoneGap, which can do all of the above. So you can build your web and your app solution if you want to keep it all in-house. You have others like Conduit Mobile, Shout'em, Mobify, who will take your content, whether it's an RSS or some static content that you develop, build and wrap a wrapper around it, and for a small yearly fee, usually around $99 to $200 a year, they'll give you an app license to publish it in the iTunes App Store, the Android App Store, and wherever else you would like it to go. And you get a mobile website and a mobile app that you manage from all one one setting, which is, in my opinion, you know, pretty good, pretty easy, but recommend it. Okay. There are some questions that people do tend to have in terms of whether to build their website from scratch or use a content management system. If you're not able, if you're the Lone Ranger in your organization or one of a few as in like 1, 2, maybe 3 persons who deal with the tech side of everything that has to go on in your church, you don't have the resources to put towards building something from scratch. As much fun as it would be, and I will admit, it is very fun building a .mobi site, and figuring out why things work and using Wordful to figure out the device detection and building the database. That's fun, it really is, but it'll take you 6 to 8 months on a low side to build something acceptable. Or you can spend 10 minutes in a content management system. I don't know. The ease of content management is the other reason why you want to choose a self-directed solution versus a CMS. One of the things I liked about Mobify is that I signed up for Mobify, I built the template, and I did not have to go back to Mobify. I do my quarterly look at it to make sure that if there's anything that I feel like changing, that I'll change and tweak. But other than that, I really do not go back to Mobify. I deal with WordPress, and WordPress. I don't have to look at another content management solution. And for those who are managing the content on your sites, if you're using WordPress, movable type, expression engine, etc., to build that content and you have a mobile CMS on top of that, this is your advantage. They don't have to learn something new. You set it up once, you check it once or twice a quarter, call it a day. Multimedia and social networking integration is what some of the newer, fancier CMSs offer. Shout'em and Conduit Mobile are 2. It's really neat. They both have built into their mobile CMS discussion board system, called almost a forum instant messaging system, a calendaring solution, and all of this is self-contained inside of the mobile app. They have an ability for you to exchange messages directly with persons inside of their services. So you don't necessarily have to have membership outside of them to use so. And you can do the sharing with Facebook, Twitter, Google+, et cetera, fairly easy. And I mean like push button easy from inside of the applications. For many of us who are dealing with mobile websites, one of the things that we make is like content that's sticky. So if I'm going to put up a post, I want to make sure my post is sticky. So I use a share button on my post to do so. You may use a share button or a share feature. Well, this is the kind of thing that mobile CMSs tend to offer right out of the box. You don't have to build another one or get a service like Add This and then graft that onto onto your efforts. If the mobile web is your number 2 in your strategy or the second step in your strategy and you have not yet built an app, going from a mobile website to a mobile app is a whole lot easier than going from a mobile app to a mobile website. And it's literally the process of deduction or addition. You know, it's easier to build on top of a basic solution, an experience that fits an application, than it is for you to say, okay, well, our app does this and we can't do this on the mobile web. What do we take away? And that's a much harder discussion. So I would give you the argument that making the mobile website, if you've not made the app first, is probably the best route for you to go. And then you can scale up a lot easier there. And then service support and infrastructure. All of the services, all of the mobile web app services that are noted on that, the previous noted page, that whole listing, most of those folks actually offer consulting and support services. So if you get stuck, they offer it from there. There are a number of believers who are coming, they're in the pipe, I won't say coming, but they're in the pipe, but this is pretty much what they do. They support those persons who built their own mobile websites. They help you kind of tweak, tune, make it a little bit better without forcing another solution on you. It's a little bit easier when you start with that content management solution to find that. Unless, and John's not here, but I can plug him. Unless you're that smart, John Dyer, unless you're that smart, you know, that you can actually build everything from scratch, you're probably not going to be the one to support yourself so friendly. All right. Deploying your mobile website, just some ahas, gotchas. Make sure your mobile URL is easy to remember / friendly. I personally do not use the best practice of .mobi. That is the hardest thing to type on a number keypad. And it's even harder unless you have swipe on your QWERTY keypad. I recommend keep your brand mychurch.com and then make it m.mychurch.com or mychurch.com/mobile. It's very easy for people to remember and they're familiar with it. There literally is enough traction with those two avenues that you don't really have to invent something new. Do make sure, as soon as you do go mobile, that you do have a means for people to give feedback specifically to mobile issues. So if you're going to use a solution like Mobify or Benu or Conduit Mobile or any of those guys, then you want to make sure on your contact form, you know, contact us about anything, any questions that you have, and you got that little drop box that says, you know, where you're categorizing that, put one in there for mobile. Your IT people will thank you. And if you are the IT person, you will be thanked about that. It's easier for you to siphon those mobile issues away from everything else. All right. In terms of promoting, use the mobile website inside of your print marketing efforts. And that doesn't mean, you know, don't ever use your desktop website ever again. But you know, once the novelty of panning, zooming, pinching, and squeezing runs off on that iPhone, Android experience, you're pretty pissed off that things weren't just right in front of you to begin with. Your mobile website is designed to kind of fit the viewport right off the bat. Use that. Use that to your advantage. m.mychurch for more information about us. You know, or if you got your Facebook page and you know that most of your Facebook users are coming from a mobile app or a mobile website, use the m. first. All right. If you plan on using QR codes, please point it to the mobile website. Pretty please. Really cool snafu. There was a large company that did this most recently, but they had this really cool QR code marketing effort in Toronto or Montreal it was, and the QR codes were everywhere. And people were happy. They were like, oh, wow, look, they're doing something cool with QR codes. I only see 2 letters of the name. They sent me to their desktop site. They got no traction. Using the QR codes actually turned into a negative experience. Because the QR code, while it did go to a website and people wanted to engage them, it went to a desktop site. So if you're going to encode any URL, encode a mobile one. Okay? Please. Pretty please. Please, 'cause there's a fail blog actually dedicated to that. And so far churches are not on there, or not faith organizations aren't on there. An example, and this example actually came from my girlfriend, and she loved the idea, and she begged me not to make an example. So I couldn't code the example. She really begged me not to, because I was going to show it to their IT people and say, please do this. But turning their church announcements into a mobile-friendly page. Her church, as well as many churches, they put up the announcements on a screen, you know, at some point during the service, or have it scrolling through at other points. And every once in a while, you know, you see somebody with that paper announcement. How easy is it to turn that into a mobile website? Something that somebody can look at and they know that calendar.mychurch.com is where I go to get all the announcements. And it's mobile friendly to begin with. It's like an aha, you know. And when she said that, I was like, well, you know, that makes a whole lot of sense. I should code, you know. And I started to build it, but she really did stop me. She stopped me very quickly, actually. A single page for your ministry or organization website. There's a whole genre of web design called single page website design, which is actually really neat. People actually just take one HTML page and they build their entire site presence on one page. Some people are really slick. They use JavaScript and other CSS tricks to make it look like there's more than one page on one page. Or some people do kind of what I did with mobileministry.info, mobmin.info, which is this. I knew that was going to happen eventually. That's what happens when I don't use that. The mobmin.info is a page or portal page, a mobile-only portal page for mobile ministry information. Mobmin.info. That is the URL. That is the brand. Nice and simple, you know, mostly. But it's a single page because there doesn't need to be, you know, 30 or 40 pages for that particular item, which is really good in terms of emphasizing mobile ministry content, knowing my audience. About 60% of the persons that come to mobmin.info do not come from English first speaking countries. And the content is not in another language besides English. Well, having a single page presence actually helps there because you can send that through a transcoder, which happens to a lot of my content at the magazine. And somebody has the entire page scripted very easily in a language that's applicable to them. So some ideas or some examples in that respect in order to do. And then finally, your do's and don'ts. This is the one point where that whole whiteout thing actually makes a whole lot of sense. Don't make your mobile website waste people's time. Yeah. I know some people like the really big banner image at the top of their blogs that you got to scroll down about 2/3 of the page before you see the first half of the title. Please don't do that on your mobile site. Please, pretty please. But things like that waste time. People are coming to your mobile website because they want some type of information right now. Don't waste their time with the extras. You know, your brand should be as simple as the icon that you use for Twitter. Keep it simple and get to the information that they need or that they want. You know, don't add complex features. I like jQuery. I think jQuery, you know, is one of the coolest things that you can do on a mobile device today, but please don't abuse it. Especially if you are creating a website with content that needs to be fitted for feature phones. There's a good chance that jQuery is going to break and you're not going to know why. Because they're not going to tell you. They're just not going to visit your site anymore. Okay? Flash? No. 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 Silverlight? Please don't. Okay. Don't limit your website to the highest end mobiles. It is very easy because now we have 320 DPI smartphones to put a really beautiful picture of my pastor standing like that. And you know, because that's that you want to be here pose, you know, you really want to be here. He's saying something really important. Please don't do that. You know, text. If you're really cool in terms of knowing how to use ASCII art, or ASCII codes or HTML codes for some of the foreign characters, non-English characters, use those. Most browsers are pretty decent with displaying those. Not all, but most. But don't limit, you know, be creative, but don't limit yourself to the highest end mobiles. Okay. The things that you do want to do make it seamless. Do make it so that in a sense, I don't know that there's a difference between your mobile website and your regular website. The type of information that I see at first on the mobile website is the type of information I see readily on your regular website. You know, one of my pain points. I go to your mobile website because I want to visit your church that Sunday and I can get the address information. I send that link to somebody else who's sitting at a desktop and they are searching and searching because you let the address to be on your information in the footer, on that black background and light gray and dark gray text at the very bottom of the page where no one looks. Okay, the two should be seamless. You know, all right. Do make sure that all primary pages on your existing website are mobile friendly, and that's one of the reasons why I liked Mobify. That ability for the spider through your site and see which pages look differently for you allows you to be able to say, well, does this page really need to be mobile friendly? You know, because if it doesn't, you know, we're just going to, you know, let it stay PC-ish as possible. But you know, your about page, what do I believe? Your giving page, your contact page. Those are all things that should be. There's no question. These have to be mobile friendly. Okay. Most of these services do give a feature. If somebody does not like the mobile version of that page, they can see on the bottom of the top of that page to go to the full website, full version of the site. So you're not losing anything from that direction. But just do make sure that at least all of your primary pages are mobile friendly. And then lastly, do point to existing social media conversations. Mobile website equals sticky. You want to engage and continue the conversation of faith, continue the conversation of life that somebody kind of wants to already have. They're coming to your mobile website, and no matter how they got there, they scanned a QR code, they saw your business card sitting on the street somewhere, they saw a flyer, they saw you in the yellow pages, they got there. Okay? That's not the end of the conversation. It's the second hand of the conversation. You know, that really good handshake where it's like one good handshake and then you put the second hand? Well, the mobile website is that second hand. All right? Bring them in. Bring them into your social media conversations. Bring them into your presence on Facebook. Bring them into your pastor's blog. Make it conversational, a conversational bridge. Because when you do that, your mobile ministry website now starts to fulfill the purpose of ministry. Create relationships that point back to God sending Jesus as the Savior of the world. All right. So, do's and don'ts. And I thank you. Oh yeah, the 70-20-10 ratio before I finish. Your mobile strategy your mobile web strategy might not be your biggest slice of pie. I would say this much: if you are thinking about a mobile app, if that's been in the front of your brain, think hard. There is a very good chance that your mobile app is not the best thing that you can do for your audience. There's a very good chance. If you are dealing with non-English content, please throw the app out the window and don't come back to it for a while. Of the Christian resources that are available in the world now, 80% are only available in English. Only. English is the third most spoken and written language in the world. Unless you're doing Mandarin, you're probably not going to hit the biggest group of people in the world. All right. So do remember that your mobile web strategy is a piece of the puzzle. Your app strategy is a piece of the puzzle. Your SMS strategy is a piece of the puzzle, but they all have to work together for the same goal. And with that, I can say I'm at the end. Plan your mobile strategy. You know, there's a session that's going to happen later on today that talks about mobile strategy in detail. I can almost guarantee you he picks up where I left off. We had a good talk on the shuttle yesterday. All right. Don't get drowned out in what is it going to take for you to develop something. Just build it and release. One of the at least advantages that I get with Mobile Ministry magazine is that you can experiment. And as long as people don't get a very healthy attachment to what you experimented with, it's usually going to be okay to move on to something else. That's okay to do in your spaces as well. You know, take a small piece of your content, go mobile with it. You know, whether it's a mobile app or a mobile website, go mobile with it and see what the uptake is. You know, don't put all of your web presence eggs in the basket all at once if you don't have to. All right. And then lastly, because this is extremely, extremely bright, you can catch me on mobileministrymagazine.com and Twitter at mobileminmag. There is a very good chance that I'm going to be sketching throughout the rest of this conference. So if you're looking at the Biola Digital hashtag, I'm all over it. I'll be all over it. Feel free to contact me. The presentation, you can scan on the left QR code. My contact information is the right QR code. But thank you for your time and attention today. And if you have any questions, because I don't think I went too far with our time. We've got about 35 minutes left in our time.
Of the different ones, the buy new,
Mm-hmm.
Conduit, and Mobilify?
Yes.
Which ones actually make an app?
Conduit,
Those are just
Conduit and Shoutem are the two services that make an app and a mobile website. Benu does app only for the next 2 months. They'll actually have a mobile website when they get out of beta for theirs as well. Yes.
On your point about the 80% English Christian materials only available in English, the group I'm working with is I'm trying to figure out between an app and now a mobile site. Mm-hmm. What it is, they have basically a Christian, a children's book that's a comic book of sorts. You could think of it like that. And the idea is to try to get that out there as a app that would be a gesture app to read it, as well as you could hit play and it sort of turns by itself. Very, very simple, very basic. We've always been thinking app for that.
I would think picture messaging would be the first thing I would think of.
Okay.
I'm sending you a picture message of story 1, and it's just one page.
One thing.
Yeah,
okay.
It's just one. If you want to sign up for more, send your SMS, send a yes back to short code 12345.
Right. So then how do I? Well, I don't want to take a lot of that type, but you then have to do promotion of some name. I'm thinking about countries that non-Western countries is what I'm majority world, and so they're in there, and then they've got to we've got to somehow get the first one to them, so they know to then sign up basically, and then like with an MMS. Do that. Are there? There's
one group that I worked with, Kiosk Evangelism. They use a method called the Man of Peace, and where they connected with a gentleman that they taught, the evangelist mentor. He taught him how to use the technology, how to create new. He gave him a netbook and a laptop so he can create new digital content in their language. He showed him how to record with the webcam, the whole 9 yards, and then he sent him out with what he had already produced as the first piece of content. And that proved to be very successful. Actually, I got a report last week, 120 more people, more pastors were trained up just from that content.
So this has been around for over 15 years, so it's existing in 118 languages. And
right. So there should be some...
We have the audio language for it, and so we have all those assets ready to go. So you're saying it's basically someone in country.
You want someone in country. In country, trusted and in country. Depending on the country, my marketing brain, has There are different access points for different parts of the world, for different regions and different economic areas.
Right.
But the one that always works for everybody is word of mouth and display.
Okay.
So anytime that I can say, hey, you, come look at this, that is almost 100%. It gets you in trouble just as much as it gets you, gets you forward.
Relationships, it's mostly worked in restricted countries.
Yeah.
And so that's very.
In that case, then, you know, any means of being able to send the pictures as a P2P transmission.
Yeah. Is there a resource you could point me to about the whole, like, okay, so if this ministry that I'm working with wants to do an MMS program like this,
Trying to remember if they're up yet.
if I wanted to, I mean, obviously, if I wanted to send a picture mail to you, I could do that.
Poke me an email. I'll have an answer for you for that. Yeah. My email.
I think that makes all the sense in the world to do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
What about the combination of, say, responsive design on just your normal website, being able to have it shrink and grow, and then also have it for the phones that, like you were saying, using a lab-based solution or something like that?
If you were
the combination of those two, and how well does that work?
If you're going to do responsive design, take a look at Luke. I can't remember his last name. He's doing responsive design on the server side. It's called REST. And when I say it's really new, it's not a month old. But he's actually doing because one of the problems with doing responsive design is you're relying on media queries and viewport sizes. WebKit is okay, not great, with listening to media queries. Trident, IE's engine, does not like mobile media queries. And Opera can care less what you do if you're running it through their transcoder. And you can kind of forget, smaller or older Java-based browsers. So in that respect, responsive design isn't the best strategy by itself. Responsive design with server-side components, the REST strategy, seems to be the route to go. And what that's doing is that's doing the responsive design. It's serving the right media, it's checking on the media query, but it's doing it on the server side and then pitching out to the mobile device based on WRFL. It's pitching out to the mobile device what might be the best CSS, HTML representation so that the client can go ahead and do the rest. That looks like it may be the solution, but like I said, it's literally a month and a half-ish old. A month and a half, 2 months old. I think it was March that the first folks started trying to do responsive design on the server side instead of on the client side. Because responsive design as it is right now, or at least how it's practiced, is 100% client side. And you're relying basically on broken implementation of media queries across every mobile device. Yes. Yes. Any other questions, comments? Yeah. I particularly like responsive design. I have for some time. I didn't call it responsive design until sometime this year, I think it was. But it's one of those where it works for the best mobiles better than it works for lower end mobiles. If the Android device is 2.3.3 or better, there's a good chance WebKit won't choke when you go responsive. And just about every iPhone, yay. The latest Blackberries, sure. Palm Pre's, okay. Mini, not all Nokias, your sort of kind of okay. But once you get out of that smartphone domain, responsive design really does fall apart because the browsers really can't, they just really aren't equipped for one reason or another to handle media queries and especially the viewport setting. When you say viewport landscape, viewport portrait, viewport at this pixel resolution, that resolution, feature phones laugh at that. They don't even process it.
What do you guys mean by
Responsive
responsive design?
design is the practice, behavior of building a website that supports multiple resolutions.
We used to call it fluid.
It used to be called fluid design. It's a little more JavaScripty and more client-sidey than fluid design used to be.
What's nice about it is you can stack content on top of one another. So like your right side rails and your middle rail and then your content rail can all kind of stack on top of each other, however you want to have it. And make things just appear to be here.
Yeah. It's not quite fluid. It's not fluid design the way fluid design. Fluid design used to be, I can build a site that kind of expands and contracts, but I keep the generic, the layout stays pretty much the same. Responsive design is actually different layouts depending on the viewport and the resolution of the device. So if I'm only looking at it through 320 window here, I'm seeing stackable content. I might not see as many images. If I'm looking at it through a 960 pixel content, I'm looking at maybe 3 columns with more images showing, maybe some JavaScript is being enabled that wasn't enabled before. Boston Globe, best example yet of responsive design. If you look at it on your iPhone as well as on your MacBook there, you'll see it in practice. They did it bestish so far.
Like WordPress does that, right?
There's a WordPress plugin for responsive design. There's a plugin for it. I haven't started using it yet, actually.
How do you put that into just a regular HTML site?
It takes some work.
It takes a good coder.
But it's more CSS-y than anything else. You're doing multiple style sheets based on viewport size and some JavaScript. If you're going to do responsive right, you're going to use some JavaScript to show, not show images versus using the CSS to do so. It actually takes a good bit more time to build, but once it's there, you're happy. It blends itself down very well. I do think REST, responsive design with server-side components, is kind of the better way to go if you're going to address mobile with it. I just couldn't tell you if that's going to be successful or not. There really aren't any use cases out there.
Yeah. It's almost like the smartphone side plus the feature phone is like the two you really need to worry about at that point.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Yes, sir.
Okay, one more. The bit new.
Yes.
You said that you mentioned it'll spit out a Java Android and just regular Java. Does it also do iPhone, or it's only Android?
No, it's just Java. It's yeah. No, iPhone doesn't do Java or anything else. That's not an app, if you will. So it just does the Java, and the Java is mostly feature phone compatible. You pretty much just about every Nokia, many LGs, many no names, and Samsung, you're just up in the air.
So I read an interesting article about how it was like, I think this is what you meant by the regular Java phones are able to get internet access.
Yes.
Like, quote unquote, dumb phones are now.
Dumb phones are now smartphones. Might have been that article.
Smartphones.
Yes.
And that's coming through the regular Java.
That's coming through Java, usually through Opera Mini, which is the most popular web browser, mobile web browser in the world, by a long shot right now.
Opera Mini?
Opera Mini.
Mini, okay.
Opera Mini, and it's called Mini. It's Opera's web browser, but it's actually all the content flows through Opera servers. They retranscode the site. So, for example, you might have a site that's actually ESPN is a really good one because their site is about 2.5 megabytes of fun, but it comes through Opera Mini Opera's servers, and it comes down to the device as a 30K page with the same full.
So someone had a phone that was not a
if it wasn't a smartphone,
they're able to, their browser they're using with the Opera Mini, and therefore if we took content that, like through BitNew, and gave us,
if you took content through BitNew, you can either use the BitNew app for that phone. You would use either the BitNew app or just give them the Java file itself. It'll show up as an icon and open up.
People would be able to
surf and go right on through. Yep. Right. Yes.
I'll add that we've been using Mofuse.
Yeah, I remember those guys. I've got a standing email from them.
Of course, it doesn't make an app, but it transforms your website.
It transforms
to mobile friendly.
Yes.
And it's a little cheaper than, I don't know if it does less, but we have the cheapest package.
Okay.
So you can only choose like 10 links.
So 10 links on the page to.
I think it's like 10. Yeah, but it seems to be working.
I remember I think I have those guys linked on the page as well. There's an email in my inbox.
Mobify.
It is.
But it may do less. I'm not sure. But it works for simple and.
Simple, yeah.
I just picked exactly what you said. Call, service time, watch a service,
Yeah, really, it's really
Basics.
once you figure out what it is that you want to do, using these CMSs are actually almost a no-brainer. If you have the budget and team to go bigger, then that's when you start looking at building something else. What I will say is that because you're using MoFuse, and you've got a site up, now your next step is to start thinking about your next website or your next major redesign for your site. And that's when you start from, okay, is it going to be a responsive site? Are we going to continue to use MoFuse for this type of content or not? Because now you can start from ground zero. Using MoFuse, Mobify, those items, those are great when you already have an existing website and redesign time is nowhere in view.
Yeah, that's exactly why we did that, because at some point we'll redesign
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll build it in or whatever.
Okay. Well, that's our time.
Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Visit biola.edu to find out how Biola could make a difference in your life.